Hey guys, Leeroy from Leeroy Gaming here. Today I am bringing you my first ever Devastator build for Outriders. I'm so happy to share this with you. It's called my Hulk Smash build. If you've watched me at all on my Twitch stream, I've tested out numerous days now. It is so much fun. Now, disclaimer, this build is actually very, very powerful DPS wise and super tanky. Now, is it going to be like a Blighted Rounds build when it comes to DPS? No, it's not. But if you've seen my other builds, I like to be creative. I like to create builds that are always effective. Don't get me wrong. This clears CT15, no problem. It can also carry partially as well. But on top of that, it is very, very tanky. And the theme for it, jumping around, smashing things, become nigh invulnerable, have bullets bounce off of you. And quite literally, as I kind of say in my thumbnail, it's like, don't shoot the Hulk. It's only gonna make him angry is so true. And you're gonna see this with the build, with the skills, with the abilities I choose to use. Again, very, very fun. I highly recommend it if you've ever wanted to play a melee kind build. I think this is probably the best one. So without further ado, guys, we're gonna take a look at everything. Now, I do wanna quickly throw it out there again. If you haven't been watching my streams, I do stream 6 nights a week on Twitch. And I provide CT15 carries for my followers for free. You can join in. I've had people as low as level 2 get carries, and they get the 75,000 drop pods. They buy up all the legendaries to break them down for mods. They gain like 8 levels in a 10-minute run. It's really, really fun. And also, if you want to be one of my Leeriders, which are basically my crew of guys that come in and they assist in the third spot, to kind of help out or show off. It's a lot of fun. So make sure you come and check us out. The links to everything you need is in the description below. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at what is going to be necessary in this build. Remember, timestamps in the description below for those of you that want to save time and want to jump around. All right, we're going to start by looking at the skills. Now, the 3 main skills you're going to be using are going to be Golem, we're going to be using Reflect Bullets, and we're going to be using Gravity Leap. Now, it's very important to note that in this playstyle, you're going to mainly be punching. You're going to sometimes rotate maybe to use a Moaning Winds proc situationally. You're going to be shooting your gun to kind of proc a mod effect. But for the most part, you're going to be leaping around. And then you're going to be using your defensive mods for defense abilities for a couple reasons. One, for the active effects, and then also to help keep your anomaly damage buffed. Now, I want to point something out because somebody asked me in a stream, hey, why do you use Reflect Bullets all the time? There's a lot of missions or expeditions that don't have Reflect Bullets. Well, there's 2 reasons. Number 1 is a secondary effect of this buff. You may notice, look at the description, creates a barrier that captures all enemy projectiles and accumulates damage. After 10 seconds, triggers a skill. The accumulated damage is reflected back to enemies in front of you, which is fine. And in fact, you're going to be using a mod that is mandatory for this, where you can move around while you do this. But the second thing that makes it not useless against melee is that the barrier also protects against melee attacks by reflecting some of the damage back. So this is key. So even if you're going to run a level where there's basically no humanoids and you're getting melee attacked, it's going to do a reflection, and it tends to knock those enemies back a little bit as well. Just a little bit. It seems like I don't know, they almost like hit you and can get like a little mini micro stun. It may just be a visual thing, but this is why Reflect Bullets is not useless in those situations. And of course, Golem, 65% incoming damage uptime is huge. The other reason why we're going to use it, I'm going to explain right now when we look at the skill nodes. All right, now we're going to look at the skill tree. And there's some very, very important things here because this is a slightly unorthodox build out. You'll notice I do not get the capstone on purpose. This is going to be very, very much about min-maxing just your punching. So let's look at the things that are important here. As you come here, we're going to want high anomaly damage because if you don't know, your melee attack ability scales off anomaly damage. So that is important to know. So we want that nice and high. We don't care about Endless Tremor because we don't use seismic abilities. So the rejuvenation is big. This does work on punches, so your melee attacks will heal you. You're going to come down here, and Paladin is very, very important. Now, this is reason number 2 why we have two defensive abilities. Look at the wording here. Using protection skills increases anomaly power by 45% for 10 seconds. Now, both these abilities, even when we do everything we can to lower the cooldown on them is still pretty extensive. So you're going to want to basically use both of them, so you can use one and then use the other one afterwards. So you're kind of cycling through them, meaning that this 45% anomaly power buff is up the majority of the time. You're really only going to have a couple seconds theoretically in downtime when it's not up. You just got to kind of control yourself. There is that instinct where you may want to use both skills like simultaneously to like double down on your invincibility, but just don't do that. And we'll go over that when we talk about skill rotations. All right, so we got that, and then very importantly, we move up to here, and we're going to get strong arm of the anomaly. So after using class melee skill, again your punch, running punch or stationary punch, increase resistance piercing by 15% for each hit enemy for 10 seconds. This is why this character and only this character can get over 100% resistance piercing. Now, I don't know, for the sake of the mod we're going to use, whether it counts over 100%, but I have snapshotted it where I use this on a bunch of mobs, and I go into my inventory and I open resistance piercing, and it's over 100%, which is pretty awesome. Now, I'm guessing from an actual functional perspective, you cap at 100% resistance piercing. But maybe for the mod that we'll talk about in the mod section, this may work above 100%. I'm not sure. But it definitely doesn't hurt to have this maxed out. No other class can scale it this high. So that is a very, very important thing. Now, as a secondary element, for those of you that don't know, resistance is quite literally, if physical resistance is against like bullets and like punches like from the enemies, like melee attacks, resistance is all it protects you against anomaly damage. And this works for enemies as well. So when you use your abilities, for example, or you put burn on an enemy or toxic on an enemy, if they have resistance, they're going to be protected from that. You're not going to do full damage. So obviously, if you can pierce some of the resistance, it can increase your damage. If you're going against like a Broodmother or any of these really high-end elite enemies, they are going to have innate resistances. So when you can strip those, it can actually be a dramatic increase to the damage you do with your skills and abilities. So that's an important thing there. Now we go up here to Resistance Paragon. For a very specific reason. We want to get our own resistance as high as we can. It's a little difficult to get the way that we have to build out. So this makes a difference. This gives us that base 20% resistance. And again, this is going to protect us. It's going to start protecting us against some of those magical attacks that can very easily one or two shot people, even if you have really high physical resistance. Now, alternatively, you could have gone towards Into the Fray, which increases your damage mitigation by 15% for 10 seconds after your kinetic skill ends, which is basically after you do your jump. The reason I don't do this is because there's inevitably going to be potentially some downtime here. Also, your physical mitigation is going to be so very, very high that you're going to hit diminishing returns, and you're not going to get the most out of this all the time. And I'd rather have 20% against anomaly damage versus only 15% here. So you could go either way, but I personally prefer Resistance Paragon. If you want to do Into the Fray, go ahead. All right, as we continue down here, notice I pick up both Pure Anomaly because this increases your resistance piercing by 15%. And I'm also going to get Perpetual Motion because you do want to be able to leap around as much as you can. We're going to continue on here. We really don't care about this the seismic debuff again. So you're going to increase duration of bleed, but this isn't really a bleed build. You'll do bleeding because when you punch, you make things bleed, but this isn't a bleed build technically. Very important, strong arm of the law, doubles damage of class melee skills, mandatory. We continue here, Executioner, that's key. This right here is really, really important. I didn't realize just how important this is until I tried some alternatives. Increases your armor bonus by 40% of your anomaly power. This is huge. You're going to have so much anomaly power, especially when you buff it up with Paladin, for example, and some of your procs from your weapons, that your armor is going to be sky high when you're actively playing. And then Skilled Sentry is big too. Increases armor by 20% and resistance by 20% for 10 seconds when your skill ends. So this is important. Every time you jump, it's going to end, or when one of your defensive buff drops off. So this should be up 24/7, and combined with this resistance paragon, it'll give you basically 40% resistance almost all the time, and your armor is going to be super high. And finally, final point, an extra 15% of pierce resistance, or yeah, resistance piercing. So you're going to have a 30% baseline before you slam down strong arm of the anomaly. So I know that's a bit complex, but I hope that makes sense. So that is the skill node system and all the points. Now it's all going to make sense when we look at the mods, which play a very, very big part of that. So we're going to look at that next. Okay, so now we're going to look at the mods, and this is where it all comes together. The mods are very, very important. This is also why this build, combined with some of the skill node elements, is the only reason I feel like this is the one class that can really make a pure melee build work. Pyromancer might be able to do kind of a hybrid of sorts, but when it comes to really smashing it melee style, the Devastator is the #1 option. So let's see why. We're going to start with the armor. So the first one, we're going to get the cranium of a lost creature. This is important because it is the only legendary item that has this combination of anomaly power, cooldown reduction, and skill life leech. Those are the stats that we want on every piece of gear. It's very, very important. We have a lot of big cooldowns. We want to get them down as low as possible. And the skill life leech is going to help you stay alive because your punching is going to help you with this. Take advantage of the skill life leech. Now, we also want your anomaly power as high as possible, but we can't do anything really that's based around increasing anomaly power when we kill things with guns, for example, because we don't really kill things with guns. So power simulation is huge. There are definitely situations where you have 2 or more elites on the map, so that's going to easily go up to 20, 30 plus thousand anomaly power. And then unstoppable force, this is huge. Now here's the key. Unstoppable force actually comes off the Pyromancer's set, legendary set, off the boots. Now you might say, wait, what the heck? How am I supposed to get that? Well, here's the really, really good news. Tiago sells them. So there's 2 ways you can get this. If you happen to have a Pyromancer, just go ahead and buy it off of him and either, break it down on a Pyro and then send the boots over there, or vice versa, send the boots through shared stash to this character, and then have him apply it either which way. Now, if you don't want to level up your character to the max level, there's 2 ways to do it. You can basically, all you got to do is go on a run with somebody that has that final area unlocked. For example, you could go to my stream on Twitch, get a carry, get the 75,000 materials, the drop pods, so you can basically go, and even if you were like, let's say, a level 2 Devastator, you could buy up all those legendaries off the Pyromancer. Rather, you want to go on your Pyromancer, get them, buy it up, and then share. So you just want to make sure you get access to those boots. You could also randomly get lucky if you have a Pyromancer, but again, you don't have to do all that work. Literally, if you want the easiest way you can do it, create a Pyromancer, get them to level 2 minimum, have a friend run you through a higher level CT, or come to my stream live. We'll get you on the clear and buy that piece of loot, break it down, and you've got this unstoppable force mob. Now, the reason why it's so critical is it says increases your anomaly power by 50% of your resistance piercing. So that's huge. As I mentioned earlier, you can get your resistance piercing to 100% on this build, or even higher. So this will be a minimum, potentially 50% anomaly power when it's maxed out, but even early on when you have 30% anomaly power without doing anything, that's still a 15% anomaly power boost all the time, but again, it's going to be always higher than that. So this unstoppable force is a huge source of your anomaly power boosting. So that's key. Next, we're going to look at the chest piece. Now, for this, again, same stats as before. We want Brawl. This is huge. Boost your melee skill damage by 100%. You want to make sure your chest rolls with it so that you can get Captain Hunter. On this, an additional 25% modifier versus elites. On the legs, same stats. Now what you want is auto reflect. Now this is mandatory because it allows you to run around with auto reflect on and also still punch things. Otherwise, the baseline, you like throw up your hand and you like absorb everything, but you can't be fighting things. So you got to get this one mod on there. And double jump is really big too, because double jump, as you're going to see here, is going to also boost how much anomaly damage and how much punching power you're going to get. So being able to do that twice is going to be a nice big boon. Next, again, gloves, also going to have the same stats as before. You're going to have anomaly echo. This is big because you're going to get a nice boost to anomaly power, and it basically lasts for 15 seconds on skill activation. You're going to be constantly casting different skills, so it's going to be up 24/7. And untamed power. This is important because look at the wording. It says using skills deals basically 50,000 damage to enemies within a 5-meter radius around you. Damage is equal to 30% of your anomaly power. So you're going to do a lot more than 50,000 damage here. Don't worry, because remember, we're going to buff your anomaly power a ton. But this works off your punches. Your punches are considered skills. So every time you punch, you basically do an AoE punch. Very, very effective, significant amount of damage. And then finally, we have the boots that also have the same stats, but now you're going to get martial arts, which reduces cooldown of your melee skills by 50%. That's big. You can attack 50% more often. It's going to basically increase your damage tremendously. And despair. Now, look what it says. It says enemies within the damage radius of gravity leap will receive 1.5 times more anomaly damage for 5 seconds. So this is huge. You want to jump into an enemy like onto an elite. Probably all the little enemies are going to die, but you're going to slam down, and then you can probably get a good 2 to 3 punches off before this wears down. If you have that double jump, you can again jump up in the air and do it again, or if the enemy's dead, jump up, target something else, and again get that. So this is another really, really nice multiplier that makes your punches really, really beefy. So that's how we do that. So those are the armor mods and armor pieces that you're going to want to get. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the weapons. Really, the only kind of mandatory weapon is the Roaring Umbra. Again, you're not going to really be shooting much. You want to get Fortress mod on there because it's going to increase all your damage by 43%, including your punches, which is going to be most of your damage. But also Kinetic Stomp. Basically, shots create a seismic shock around you, dealing 232,000 damage in 5-meter radius, cooldown 4 seconds. So basically, in between punches, I just shoot 1 bullet, 1 or 2 bullets. It's just something you spam, and it's another AoE proc when you punch. Really, really good. Now, a Moaning Wind's backup is optional. You'll be running around, and sometimes you'll have a bunch of mobs on you. You can quickly swap to the Anomaly, or of course, you can do the Death Shield, the same combo, as long as the weapon has Moaning Winds on it procced. So you can swap between those two and get that extra effect. Now, again, it's not going to be a huge part of the build because you're still going to be punching for the most part, but you can rotate this in. If you don't have an Anomaly, for example, don't worry about it. The build's not going to be trash without it. It's kind of a bonus, and your handgun really doesn't matter. I never use it. I never rotate to the handgun, so do what you will with that. All right, now I'm going to do kind of a live tutorial of how to use the rotation because you got to be able to jump on things. So normally what I do is when I see some enemies, I'm going to jump on them, and if they die, they die. But let's say it's one of these. Right, let's simulate. I want to aim on them, boom, and I'm going to proc my first ability. So normally my golem. Okay. Now I may swap over to my Moaning Winds to finish him off. Now as soon as my other buff drops, notice I'm going to do the second proc, second ability. So you can kind of see on my skill bars at the bottom how there's a little timer when they go off cooldown. Notice mine just finished off, and only a couple seconds, the other one's going to be ready. So we jump up, we smash, we do golem, and look, it's up there for 8 seconds, right? So we're going, I'm jumping around, I'm punching. I'm making to shoot from time to time, and now that one's gone, and my second one is already ready to go. So if I had some enemies, I would already automatically proc reflect. So there's my perfect, they're kind of bouncing off me, we're shooting, we're going. And again, I'm just running around as a tutorial to show you again. So again, let's just pretend we're beginning from the very start. So we go, we see an enemy, okay, we want to target him, jump on top. Now we can punch because we get that 1.5% modifier. Don't forget to shoot your gun every 5 seconds. Okay, and now if it's something tougher, obviously, so let's again, jumping in, let's pretend, get my golem up, now you're buffed up, you're punching, rotating Moaning Winds if you want, punch again, run into them, one buff down, proc the other one immediately. Now we jump onto the next one, oh look at that, all that nice heal, punching again, find another target, jump, There you go. Knock the... Wow, we just one-shot that. That was awesome. And again, you're just doing this rotation. Be very aware of your buffs, because you want to make sure that you keep that Paladin buff up, which is at 45% to your anomaly damage. And again, as long as you're rotating between your two defensive buffs, you're going to be good to go on that. And again, just make sure you're always jumping on people. You want to be in combat as much as humanly possible so that you don't, you don't die. Because if you do just kind of stand there and you're not staying active, you will die just like with anybody else.
last time? The one who nearly buried me alive?
Am I gonna have to dig you out of the rubble again?
Outrider detected. Access
He's sung
granted.
his last, and the pod's ours.
Great! Then, out of curiosity, can...
All right, guys, as we look at the stats here in a second, did you guys notice how I curb stomped the living bejesus out of Moloch? He got destroyed by this build. So, very fast CT15 run for a melee build. Come on. 197 million damage. The breakdown's great. 55 million of it is basically your punch, your lacerating push. Untamed power damage, 43 million. Gravity leap, 36 million. Moaning winds all the way down to 32, and kinetic stomp damage. So as you notice, you could even take out that moaning winds and you'd be fine. This is all about punching, all about kicking. Very, very fun, very effective. All right, guys, so there you have it. My Hulk Smash video, my very first Devastator build. It's a lot of fun. Definitely try it out, especially if you have wanted to jump around, smash things. Or if you're on console and you're not very good at aiming, you don't have to aim with this at all. No crits, no nothing. You just smash the bejesus out of stuff. When you run with people, they're going to love you because you're going to be the center of attention of all the mobs. I've had situations where literally on Chem Plant, the other people, 2 people died, and like 20 people shooting me. I bust out my reflect. I go and I res both people, bring them back from the dead, and we finish up the gold. You just feel like a total badass when you play it. And again, if you want to go and join me when I live stream on Twitch, make sure to check us out. Again, I do CT15 carries for free for the community 6 nights a week. Check out the link below. On Twitch, there's a schedule page. You can see all the times. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter. Whenever there's updates or announcements, I make sure to announce it there as well. So check that out. And needless to say, if you've watched this far and you enjoyed this video, check out my other build videos. Drop a like. And if you really want to help the channel, hit that notification bell so you know when we have our brand new videos and also our premieres. I started doing those. People have been loving them. So every time I have a build, I now do a premiere. Watch it with you guys. Answer any questions you may have. It's a load of fun. So hopefully you guys can check out the next one. Again, Leeroy here with Leeroy Gaming, and I will see you guys in the next video.